Trauma-informed practices. Here are some tools for working with students who have experienced trauma. First, we must constantly remember to keep ourselves okay as best we can. Much of this presentation explains best practices in that effort of emotional self-care and maintaining our resolve. Today's agenda will include compassion fatigue, secondary traumatic stress, an overview of trauma-informed practices, how trauma can affect students, and tools for working with students who have experienced trauma. We will cover these briefly. Our main goal: we continue to use trauma-informed practices while fighting the isolation of some students and keeping them connected to us and their peers. We do this already when we build relationships. We give kids a sense of purpose and opportunities to contribute to the school community. Compassion fatigue is defined as the cost of caring. It's our reality. There is a shift in our ability to engage when we do it with empathy or sympathy. This happens with students who are struggling, suffering, or in constant need or crisis. It can tax our compassion, our ability to tolerate strong emotions and difficult stories in others. It's not pathological or a disease or a mental health disorder. It develops because we care, although the volume of our work and the stories we bear witness to may sometimes outweigh our ability to replenish ourselves. It can be taxing, no doubt. Here are some of the most common symptoms characterized under 6 different types: cognitive, emotional, personal relationships, physical, spiritual, and behavioral. Really covers the whole person. This is a great one-page graphic that gives either protective or healing strategies per category of compassion fatigue. It is a guideline for self-care, and you know how I love one-pagers. There is no standardized definition of trauma-informed care or practices that I could find. These 4 R's help in that regard. We realize the impact trauma has on a person. We know what it typically looks like. We respond appropriately, and we try to stop it from getting worse. These 3 components define what we do in our school for our students. First, we create the school and class environment. Then we build relationships and connect to the kids. Lastly, we support and teach emotional regulation. The ACEs. This acronym ACE is an integral part of understanding trauma-informed care. Adverse child experiences affect the development of a personality. The video defines them as toxic stressors that lead to lifelong changes in learning and behavior. The video linked at the bottom. They affect you socially and emotionally in your functioning. The video beautifully defines the development of personality through the genetic versus environmental lens. After viewing this video of our Oakwood presentation, please click into the Google Slides in the same folder and view this 6-minute video. I really love this slide. It details how, if your primary human needs are not satisfied, higher order thinking and learning takes a back seat in life. Maslow's before Bloom's. Brilliant. Our brains develop from the bottom up, first with the brainstem, survival coming first, and then the cortical or thinking parts of our brains much later. The majority of brain organization takes place in the first 4 years of life. Because this is when most primary connections are made, early childhood neglect and abuse have a disproportionate influence on early brain development and later brain functioning. In utero trauma, substance abuse, domestic violence, high maternal stress also can have a dramatic lifelong effect on a person. Chronic threats cause the brain to function in a constant state of fear, leading to the fight, flight, or freeze center to be overly engaged, and the cortex, the thinking section, and the limbic brain, the relationship section, to shut down. This may lead to students responding to something such as a raised voice or a correction as if it were a threat. Here are some important facts to understand students impacted by trauma. I won't read from them, but they'll be in the slides and you can view them on your own. If we know how the brain works bottom up, we need to encourage all students to regulate so they can move up to problem solving. You can't skip or advance as the process is sequential. We can't start talking to kids, reasoning with them, when they're not regulated and there is no relationship. They will not hear and cannot process. I love the expression, the new to me, maybe it's been around, inside your feelings. It is a perfect and simple description of this neuroscientific condition. The kids understand it when you say you're inside your feelings. Be careful. When you use it to describe them at that given moment, it is likely to put them deeper into that defensive mode. After they've calmed down, you can refer to it. Do you remember when you were inside your feelings? All right, let's delve into the neuroscience. The neurosequential model is defined above. This slide tells us to meet the child where they are, understand chronological age may not match the emotional or cognitive age. I certainly don't feel 45 today. It helps us understand how the brain develops sequentially. If a student has experienced a traumatic event or multiple events, we can start looking at the timing of those events to better understand where the kid might be stuck. For example, my parents divorced and had a custody battle in the early 80s. I love even the bad music from that era. Sometimes concessions are needed to escape the moment of emotional crisis for a child. We give them a timeout to cool off, for example. This is similar to some of the restorative practices. There's an emphasis on skill building and solving problems together. A is the adult expectation. B is where both the adult and child collaborate. C is where the child gets the say at that moment, and the adult tables the expectation, kind of like picking our battles. All right. Resilience is the result of a dynamic set of interactions between a child's adverse experiences and protective factors. No child is magically resilient, just as no child is automatically doomed if faced with ACEs. Research has shown that a positive relationship with one positive adult can change the trajectory for even the highest risk child. Research indicates also that schools using a social-emotional learning curriculum achieve better academic results. They build a sense of pride and belonging, ensuring students feel physically and emotionally safe. We give voice and choice, like in morning meetings or in check-ins. We create opportunities for students to contribute to others and their community in the school. Lastly, we see co-regulation. Neuroscience tells us that the ability to learn self-regulation happens through connections with reliable caregivers who soothe and model through the process of co-regulation. Those who may not have experienced this are likely to have difficulty self-soothing and will act out in ways that look disrespectful or oppositional. We help when repeated cycles of emotional upset are followed by relaxation after our calming interventions. We provide the basis for developing a sense of trust and safety. We continue to need co-regulation throughout life in times of high stress. Now is definitely one of those times. To co-regulate, try to focus on the emotion driving the behavior rather than the behavior itself. Try to use a warm tone. Validate they are in distress. Use supportive silence. After building trust and safety, we can begin to teach students how to label and manage their emotions so that they can go on to gain mastery over self-regulation. In summary, trauma-informed care shifts our focus from the behavior exhibited at that moment to the underlying causes of the behavior. Please go to the Google Slides presentation and click in the ACEs video link. Again, it's only 6 minutes. And after seeing this presentation, it will solidify your understanding of trauma-informed care.